Spring is here and baseball is back.
You can't forget the Derby. I love the hats. Do you have yours yet?
My hat? I treated myself to a whole outfit.
If you want to be able to treat yourself, then you should check out the Nest Savings Account at LGE Community Credit Union, where they want you to reach your savings goals faster.
Take it from a pair of 680 The Fan wives. Head to lgeccu.org to find out what makes their team #1 in Georgia.
Welcome to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3, and I'm so happy you are here because this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are banned from family gatherings but are absolutely necessary for a strong republic. You can catch us every Saturday at 4 p.m. and every Sunday at 9 a.m. Podcast episodes drop every Tuesday, and you can watch that right here on Extra 106.3 at the Podcast Park, or you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Please understand that while this is the case right now, there is a special announcement coming. The show time is changing, so this episode will air at 4 p.m., but starting April 27th, we'll be starting at 3 p.m. You'll be able to catch the Janelle King Show at 3 p.m. on Extra 106.3. Super excited about that. Now, in case you've missed it, I have done a series on the Hot 24, which are hot button issues that I believe we are going to be discussing and talking about and dealing with as we are riding this wave of this election year. These issues include abortion, the economy, healthcare, immigration, election integrity. I really feel like those are going to be the top discussions that we're going to be having as we are moving forward during this election year. That being said, and staying in the vein of elections, the fact that we are having so many, it encouraged me to do something a little bit different. And I felt like this was the perfect time to start the rollout of my candidate conversations, which are more like candid conversations. And this is where I'm highlighting people and conversations from those who are in office, but also, and most importantly, on the trail. Because these are the people that will be our up and coming, the folks that are probably going to replace different types of people, different leaderships people, or those who are in leadership, I should say. And so I think it's important to hear from them. I like to hear from people before power is handed over. That being said, today you'll get to hear a snippet of my interview with attorney Robert Patillo. I'm only sharing about 23 minutes of it. The full interview will be on my YouTube page, which, surprise, is now up and running. So please go to YouTube and look for the Janelle King Show. You'll get to see what I look like, for one, as these interviews are dropping, because they are on camera. But you'll also get to see the person who is talking. So I'm really excited about that and dropping these interviews on the YouTube page. So you'll get to hear the full interview there and watch it there. And you can also hear it in the podcast that will drop on Tuesday. And for those of you who enjoy reading, we are going to submit a transcript, a portion of the transcript, to the Peach Pundit, so that they can you can actually hear directly from them. And I think that's going to be insightful because you'll be able to read the actual you'll get to not just read what was said, but you'll get to read, like, I said this, he said this, and vice versa. So you'll have the transcript of the conversation. Now, our guest that you'll be hearing from right after the break, you'll hear my interview with him, is attorney Robert Patillo. Now, Robert is a civil rights attorney here in the state of Georgia. Now, I'm not sure. I think he can't operate outside of Georgia, but I've met him here. He's also a former candidate for Georgia House of Republicans, Representative District 53. He is the executive director of the Rainbow Push Coalition. And let's just pause there. For those of you who don't know what the Rainbow Push Coalition is, it is an organization that was founded by Jesse Jackson, Those of you who don't know who Jesse Jackson is, he is someone who they have touted as a civil rights leader. He ran for president once, and he's just kind of been around. He also went to my alma mater, so we went to the same college, North Carolina A&T, but there you have it. So regardless of how you feel, there's a lot of perspectives on that. I have my own personal perspectives, but as long as, regardless of how you feel about Jesse Jackson, he is the one who's behind the Rainbow Push Coalition that is driving this organization that Robert Patillo is the executive director of. However, what we're finding fascinating is that he is challenging Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee in this upcoming election. Now, for those of you who don't know Judge McAfee, he is the judge who sat in on the Fani Willis case against with Nathan Wade and all of that. He's the one who made the ruling that she is to get rid of Nathan. And I think he focused in a lot more on her code of conduct. He wrote a scathing response as to why this is a problem as it relates to her and Nathan Wade and the contracts and having the boyfriend working for you and all that stuff. And we do dive into that a little bit in this interview. I feel like Robert was a little bit careful around that because he's running for office. So that's just my take. Anyway, a little bit about his background. He has a background in law, and he's as a commitment to civil rights. He brings experience and dedication to his campaign. He's aiming at making a meaningful impact in Fulton County and beyond, according to his bio. But he's also a personal friend of mine. We kind of grew up in the world of politics together. He was one of the first media hits that I had. His TV show, People, Passion, and Politics, is a radio show that airs on 1380 FM or AM, and it's pretty prominent, particularly on the left. I think a lot of the left-leaning, predominantly Black people who are maybe my age and older, so like 40 and older, really enjoy that show and that network, that station. And he invited me on, and I held it down for Republicans, and I still have. And it's interesting because even the woman he had me on with, who was a Democrat at the time, she was doing, her little media hits too. And now she's big time, Misha Cross. And so she and I kind of battled it out in our young years on his show. And that's how we connected. So I like to say that Robert has certainly played a major role in my political, my more so my media career, but we've always kind of battled it out. We would sit and have conversations about different political perspectives. He considers himself to be a conservative Democrat, which we're going to get into that a little bit too. But it's quite interesting. It's just quite interesting overall. So after the break, you're going to meet Robert, and you're going to listen to our conversation as we kind of go into a little bit into his background, being of Haitian descent, and we have a lot that's going on in Haiti. We talk about the border and the border wall. We talk about whether the system is racist, having been a part of the system as in the legal space for so many years. I want to know his take on whether the system is racist. So we talk a lot about that. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to talk about his current focus. We're going to talk about the current affairs and political state of where we are, his challenges, and then we're going to dive into his campaign. I did ask him, like, what would you have decided? Like, do you think the ruling was good, or what do you think about Judge McAfee's ruling? We go into that, and I'm really debating. I think I'm going to reach out to Judge McAfee as well, because I am interested in hearing his side of the story as it relates to this crazy wackadoodle of a court spectacle that took place with Fani and Nathan Wade. I would love to get his take on it. And I would like to see, he's running for office. We need to talk to people who are on the trail. These are individuals that's going to affect us. before we kick it off and we go to break and then I come back, I want to say something. There is a different generation of young people that are in the political sphere right now. We're in a political space. We are those who have worked behind the scenes. We have watched a lot. We've assisted a lot of people get elected. We've been behind the scenes so much. And we understand that the baton that we are waiting to be passed probably will not be passed. It must be taken because a lot of people just don't want to pass the baton. And for us, we are looking at the state of our futures. We're looking at our grandchildren, our children's futures as young people. A lot of the people who are making decisions won't be around long enough to see the impact of their decisions, which puts us in a really peculiar situation as a young person in politics. So, we're having different type of conversations. We're really diving deep into some of the stuff that are really facing us as voters and us as a people as a whole, mainly because of the fact that we understand that we're the ones that's going to have to bite the bullet and have to manage all of this and handle all of this going forward. So it's a very peculiar time. It's a very unique time. And I think that we are in the perfect position in order to really strike up conversations that are necessary right now, particularly as young voters. We're the future, whether you like it or not. We're the ones that's going to be running the government at some point. It has to. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. So let's find out who these people are. So, as I said, after the break, you're going to listen to an interview between me and Robert Patillo. And we are going to dive into all of that good stuff. And then I'm also going to close with something kind of fun. I'm going to close with a fun game of Would You Rather political styles. So stay tuned, stay connected, stay involved. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to The Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3. And if you're on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. Well, welcome back to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3. Unless you're watching on YouTube, and then you are watching the Janelle King Show, and this is new, fresh. I'm doing a candidate series, interviewing individuals who are either running for office, have ran for office. It's in the political space, and we're having some candid conversations. So today, I would say this week, this show, we have our friend, Robert Patillo. And before the break, you heard a little bit about him and a little bit about his background. One of the things that I stated is that we are friends and we have known each other for a very long time. If it wasn't for Robert, I don't even know if I would be in media. I mean, I don't know if I've ever said that to you, Robert, but media is a thing now because I was introduced to it by going on Robert's show, People, Politics, Passion, and it was fabulous. So now we're going to dive into it. I want to jump into this discussion fairly quickly because there's a lot to talk about. We know that you, Robert, and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
We know that you are no stranger to politics as a whole. However, as I stated before, I kind of grew up in the political space with you. And so when you introduced me to the media space, but I don't know much about your upbringing other than little small conversations. So for our audience, if you could share a little bit about your upbringing so that we can understand how you walked into this political journey.
Oh, thanks so much. And thanks so much for having me. It really is a pleasure. And of all the interviews I've done, you're the first person to ask me anything about myself during the interview. It's funny how that works in our politics, but I'm a Grady baby. I'm one of the few people left in Atlanta who was born at Grady Hospital, but I was raised down in Waverly Hall, Georgia. My mother is from Haiti. My dad is from Harris County. He went to Haiti on vacation in like the early 80s, fell in love with a girl 20 years younger than him, and now me and my sister exist here in America. So I'm a fan of the Passport Bro movement from a generation ago. But I grew up in a very strong conservative Christian household. My mother was Caribbean Catholic and my dad was Southern Baptist. So it was a very kind of strict conservative upbringing. But they got us into politics very young, understanding both the political situation that was going on where my mom's from in Haiti, and also kind of the turmoil of the late 80s and early 90s in American politics. And that's really where I kind of cut my teeth in politics. My great aunt, Annie, I was actually a student at Tuskegee Institute and was friends with Booker T. Washington, one of the first Black women in the state of Alabama to get a professional degree, as well as a graduate degree, a doctorate from the University of Chicago in the early part of the 20th century. One of my cousins, or great cousins, Melba Beal Patillo, was one of the Little Rock Nine who integrated Little Rock Elementary School. So we kind of have a family history of being involved in activism and education, and that's really where I kind of didn't really have a choice about what I was going to do. I wasn't exactly going to go to school and say I was going to be a painter or a dancer. It was law and politics for me. My first campaign was working with Max Cleland. He was the former congressman from Columbus, Georgia. If you remember, he was a Vietnam veteran, wheelchair, didn't have legs, etc. But he really was one of those conservative Democrats that I grew up with. When I got to college, I worked on the Kerry Edwards 2004 election as a student organizer. Of course, worked for Obama 2008 when I was in law school. I went to law school in Chicago, so you couldn't really not work for Obama in 2008 if you're in Chicago. Then when I moved back to Atlanta after law school, I worked for Jesse Spike's campaign for mayor. I worked for John Otzendine's campaign for governor, and many other conservative candidates. Tim Echols when he was running for public service commissioner. And from there is when I really kind of started transitioning from political consulting into media, where I started my radio show while continuing also to work for nonprofits like the Rainbow Push Coalition. I've been an advisor for Reverend Jesse Jackson for about 20 years. So I consider myself pretty centrist. I kind of go across the political landscape, as you can hear, everything from conservative Democrats to Republicans to progressives. I kind of bring all that to this race running for judge here in Fulton County.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because before we jump into your race, I do want to touch on the Rainbow Push Coalition because you were the executive director. Are you currently still the executive director? And if so, can you explain some of the mission focus of the Rainbow Push Coalition as it stands today?
Certainly. I left Rainbow Push at the end of 2022. I promised Reverend Jackson I'll get him through the 2022 midterms. I did that, and then I took some time off for myself, worked on some federal contracting, went on vacation, which was great. My wife's 50th birthday was last year, the end of last year. So we took a cruise from Barcelona through the south of France and then back to Ibiza. It was great, but after you take a little time off, you do some working, you want to get back into the arena, and this is me hopping back into the arena. But the mission of the Rainbow Push Coalition was and is to bring together a broad rainbow of people of all colors, complexions, creeds, to work towards social justice and progressive change. This can include everything from reform to police brutality, changes to laws with regards to voting, and economic issues, working with unions, working with immigrant groups, economically disenfranchised individuals. The way Reverend Jackson describes it is as being a lobbyist for the people. That these corporations have the ability to go out and hire these multi-million-dollar lobbyists to advocate for their political issues. But for poor people, you have nonprofit organizations, you have social justice groups, you have civil rights organizations that have to go and represent and speak to the people in power on behalf of their constituencies. And that's what I did for 5 years as executive director of Rainbow Push.
So as when we're looking at current affairs and looking at where things are today, I have to get a little personal because you are 50% Haitian and the border is a huge discussion right now. So I know this has nothing to do with what you will be doing as Superior Court judge, but I have to ask because of your family connection to Haiti. What do you think about what's happening? Should we allow Haitians to come in to America as it stands today? And what do you think about the border and securing the border?
I'm going to bifurcate the question. So let's start with this question: what we should do about the border? We've needed to have a comprehensive immigration reform package passed since 1986. The last time we did anything on immigration was when Reagan did blanket amnesty in '86. Since then, we've had McCain-Kennedy in 2005. We've had the Schumer Compromise in 2013, the Obama Compromise 2015, Durbin-Rubio 2018. We had the Reconciliation Bill in 2021. We had the Langford Bill in 2023, and yet still we have not been able to get anything done about this. We can have a actual intelligent border policy that includes a pathway to citizenship for individuals who are already here, that includes legal representation and recognition of the dreamers, that deals with funding border courts, asylum, immigration judges to be able to handle these international claims of asylum, that also involves investing billions of dollars in the physical border and border deterrence, that we need to have the ability to inspect the millions of shipping containers that come to America every year that nobody looks into, that contain much of the fentanyl illegal drugs that come from Asia, that can deal with not just a border wall, but dealing with the tunnels that exist under the southern border, as well as the investing in the Coast Guard and their ability to intercept some of the drug submarines that come from South America. But that doesn't happen unless both parties can stop demagoguing the issue. Everybody who supports border control is not racist. They do not want to take migrants and shoot them in a catapult across the border. They simply want an organized border system. Conversely, everybody who supports immigrants' rights does not believe in open borders and amnesty. They're simply saying that we want to have the same treatment for migrants coming from Central and South America that we have coming from Europe and other places. I think once we can take the demagoguery and kind of the excessive nature of the conversation out of it and actually get down to brass tacks and trying to solve the issue, we can have the type of border compromise necessary to really fix the problem. But, I remember organizing about immigration reform in 2002 during the midterm elections, right when before they were doing McCain-Kennedy, and we're having the exact same arguments now that I have gray in my beard and in my hair that I was having when I was basically a teenager back then. We have to get out of this intransigence. What the issue of well, go ahead.
Well, because I don't want to cut you off because I do want to hear your second half, but I do want to say a lot of things you listed I think are definitely necessary. I think we have made strides towards certain things. To your point, we need to do more. However, looking at the state of where things are now, do you think we should close the border and create while we're working on these other things, or do we leave the border open and then allow people to come in without it being checked? Or, we have people that are jumping across the border who we have no clue where they are, where they're going, and in some cases we do. So where do you see it on what type of action can we do today, right? Like right now, because we're in a crisis right now.
Well, so this is the part of the issue with semantics on this issue. The border has never either been open or closed. It's just always kind of existed. If you look at Cheech and Chong movies from the 1980s, they talk about illegal immigrating back and forth across the border as people have done for generations in this country. So when we're having this conversation, it has to be about how exactly do you pass the legislation necessary so that if people come to America with a valid asylee claim, we have enough judges that will be able to see them, determine the claim, and actually take action on that immediately. When we talk about the physical border that has to take place, me and you right now can hop in a car, drive cross country, go to the Mexican border, walk directly across, and then walk directly back across. That's just the nature of the border, and we could have done that under any president in our lifetimes. We have to figure out how to put the types of technological aspects there that can stop the human trafficking, that can stop the fentanyl, that can ensure that we have the resources needed at the border, and then also work with the other nations within our hegemonic sphere of influence to deter the pipelines that are leading to this. We can't ignore America's record when we, just 5 years ago, that we were trying to overthrow the president in Venezuela and replace him with Juan Guaido, and that created the instability that we see in Venezuela. Now we see a bunch of Venezuelans integrating to America. We can't pretend that we didn't have a role in that as a nation. So this is why we have to work with our friends within our sphere of influence to stop the flow and stop the engine that's driving migrants to America, and then also We have to reform American drug policy. The reason that these drug cartels have so much money is because of American drug policy that drives up and incentivizes them to do so. So it has to be a broad-based issue. And when we talk about open, close the border, it almost sounds like there's a switch where you just walk down there, pull a lever, and say borders closed. But I think we have to get to a legislative place where people really want to get in there and do things.
I mean, I think you sort of can do that, but I mean, I don't want to make this a discussion on the border because I do know that we have a lot more to get into. But I do think that there are things we can do to kind of shut it down. There are other countries that you're not able to just kind of walk in and waltz out. And then, but to your point, there are opportunities for people to break the law in other countries as well, which is when you jumping in and out or you're coming in and not leaving. But we do have a process, right? So to say, I mean, there is a border process that we have in place. Now, are our elected officials abiding by it? No. Are people actually respecting it? No. But I do think there's a process in place, which kind of leads to your current race, because everything you're going to do is about processes, is associated to processes. So I know you believe in that. So now that we've kind of discussed your personal position on certain things, let's dive into your political future. So recently you announced that you will be challenging Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, who recently, we know him. He's kind of raised to fame or kind of became this focal point because of his connection to overseeing the election interference case that Fani Willis has put forth, as well as the case to disqualify Fani Willis, who is our current Fulton County District Attorney in the upcoming election. But before we dive details deep into that particular race, there's another race that I kind of want you to touch on. The first time you ran for office, you ran for Georgia House seat. I think it was in 2012.
Yep.
I just kind of want to know, what did you learn during that race that you're using in this run? And then I'd like to know what you thought about Judge McAfee's decision as it relates to Fani Willis, and if you would have done the same thing.
Well, what I learned in 2012 was one, when you're in your mid to late 20s, for some reason, you really think that your ideals and your smile can really, I know you need to raise money. That's a very important part. Ideas and wishes and good intentions only get you so far. Then also the mechanics of a campaign are the most important part of the campaign. I very much am good at the speaking with voters, laying out ideas, bringing forth kind of the organization necessary to run a campaign. But I need someone else to do the paperwork. I need someone else to make sure we're doing the campaign filings on time, to do the disclosures, to make sure all the ducks are in a row. And it's entirely too much to try to do all those things yourself. I've always been one of those, like, I'll do it myself type people, kind of that old school male ego idea. Like, I'll be the finance director, I'll be the media director, I'll be the campaign director, I'll be the candidate, I'll write the press releases, I'll build the website, I'll drive the campaign car. No, get people to help. And that's what I've learned. Build a team, learn to take advice, learn to take help. I think the interceding decade or so since I ran for that first office, there's a reason it's taking me over a decade to run for office again. And I was very much in a position of saying, no, I would never run again for office. I very much enjoyed the position of being in the media. You know, the good thing about being in the media is there's no consequences for being wrong. You can make a take. You can stand on it. If you're wrong, you just pretend it never happened and moved on to the next one. And there's always another topic of conversation. There's real accountability when you're actually running and when you're in office. And that's really what led me to run in this race against concurrent with Judge McAfee. Judge McAfee was appointed by Governor Kemp at the end of 2022. So this was really an open seat that Judge Brasher vacated. And this is the first time that it's up for election. So it's not that I'm running against Judge McAfee. I don't want people to think that this has anything to do with him. We're just both running for the same seat that was vacated by Judge Brasher. And I can't get into the details of how I feel about someone else's decision. One, that violates the judicial canons. But two, I don't have the same information Judge McAfee had. None of us had access to all the filings that he read through. None of us had access to the in-camera discussions that he took place or the witness testimony that he heard. We heard the very public aspects of it, so I'm not going to second guess him based on information that I may or may not have had. But I do think what is important is when we're talking about the Fulton County court system, we had 10 people die in the Fulton County jail last year. one person was eaten to death by bed bugs. I remember this because I had to go on Iranian TV to explain how America, the most advanced country in the world, had somebody eaten to death by bed bugs in one of their jails. And the reason for this is we have people who are awaiting trial for 5, 6, 7 years at a time. Before they can get to trial. And many inmates would love to have the situation where the prosecutors are rushing to get their case to trial, the same way the prosecutors are rushing to get Donald Trump's case to trial. Inmates and defendants would love to have a situation where they can spend 2 weeks having a hearing on the prosecutor, as opposed to 2 weeks having a hearing on them. And the point is that we have to have fairness and equity in our criminal justice system. There are inequities in Fulton County that are very much drawn along socioeconomic lines, even more so than racial lines. The people who are wealthy, well-connected, politically astute, have a very different experience in the Fulton criminal justice system in this county than people who are poor and downtrodden and live in zip codes that don't appear on reality TV shows and rap videos. So because of that, we have to have judges in place that are able to balance the needs, to move cases along, to ensure fundamental fairness, and to protect the constitutional rights of the individual. I argue that if you are in jail for 5 years awaiting trial without being convicted, that's an Eighth Amendment violation. That is cruel and unusual punishment. I believe that if you are denied a bond and you have to wait 6 months or a year just to have another bond hearing, that is a constitutional violation of the individual liberties of the defendant. And we have to either dismiss those cases and allow the prosecution to re-indict them or get those cases moved along. And once you start doing that, you are really affecting the change from the system that's necessary. The problems we've had in Fulton County existed long before Donald Trump and Fani Willis. That was just long after Donald Trump and Fani Willis. I'm running to fix that system, not to address any individual case.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the system because, you know, when you've been a part of the system, you know, you're an attorney. And so you've been a part of this and being able to either support or not support in some cases. Now, Fulton County is a very unique breed, right? It's a very unique group of voters in the sense that it is very blue. It tends to be very blue. It's almost like you're pushed in that direction regardless. So how would you, and you're a self-described conservative Democrat. So in what ways would you say your conservative side plays a role, and what policies as it relates to Fulton County, criminal justice reform, or any of that that's associated with your job would you say aligns conservatively?
Oh, certainly. As you know, I'm a very strong supporter and defender of everyone's Second Amendment rights. You know, I was on the board of the National Association, or National Black Gun Association, National African American Gun Association, NAGA. I've spoken at the NRA convention in 2017 with Wayne LaPierre, their executive board. Also, I believe strongly in individual rights and individual liberties. And this is why I talk so much about the overreach of government power. I think that any conservative out there who just think for a second that government agents come in, take you off, don't tell you what you're charged with, put you in a condition of rendition, hold you without a bond for 6 months or a year prior to you even finding out exactly what the charges are against you, and then they hold those charges over your head while you're in custody for 5, 6, 7, 8 years while you're awaiting trial. I think any conservative will say, well, that is a violation of our fundamental constitutional rights, and we need to have a smaller government imprint and impact on the rights of the individual. Either you charge me or you let me go. Either you try me or you let me go. We have to have a system that supports and defends and respects those constitutional rights. I think that in addition to that, we have a prosecutor to judge pipeline in this country, where people who are prosecutors their entire career just slide down along the bench, wait for somebody to either retire or go to a different office, and then they become a judge. And just like with a hammer, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's something that, and if you're a prosecutor your whole career, every defendant looks like they're guilty. We need to have judges who have a broad-based experience. If I'm making a determination to sentence somebody to life in prison, I think you should have had the experience of sitting next to a client that was sentenced to life in prison, that you understand what it means to an individual, that you've met with families, that you've sat down and seen the consequences of your decisions. These are not academic decisions. This isn't something to feed into an algorithm and just have the ruling spit out by the supreme intelligence. These are real life human beings, and you damn damn sure better have some experience dealing with that. And those are the decisions you're going to make. I think if you're ruling on a wrongful death case, that you should have handled extensive civil litigation. So you know the ins and out of that, not just the what you've read in a book or what you've seen on a CLE video. I want somebody who's actually experienced that. If you're dealing with family law cases, if I'm taking custody away from a mother and giving it to the father or giving it to the state, I need to have had the experience of representing a mother, representing a family, and understanding the impact that has on those individuals. And when you have a pipeline that simply feeds people directly from the prosecutor's office, directly to the judge's bench, they lose all those connections and all those experiences that come from being within representing clients and really be on the other side of the table. I think in addition to that, we have to have more people in office who are not government.
Welcome back to the show. This is the Janelle King Show right here on Extra 106.3. And for those of you who are just joining me, you did miss a bulk of the show, and that's okay. That's okay. It's all good. There are other ways to listen, and we are hoping that you will find those ways as well. You can always go to allthingsjking.com. That's allthingsjking.com, where you can find out what's going on, check out the website, message me, all that good stuff. We will start uploading the candid conversation videos on there as well. But be sure to go to YouTube. Be sure to go to YouTube to watch it right now if you have missed the bulk of the conversation. Because before the break, I spoke with attorney Robert Patillo, who is running against Judge Scott McAfee for Fulton County Superior Court judge. You've all heard of McAfee, who was the presiding judge over the Fani Willis and Nathan Wade trial, or well, I guess it was hearing. And so that's kind of how we heard about him, and him just kind of being deeply connected to the Trump electorate case and all that good stuff. However, Robert is someone who was in media for a while. He's been doing a lot of commentating like myself, but also he's an attorney, and he's a civil rights attorney. And so he is looking forward to unseating Scott McAfee and becoming the new Superior Court judge. Like he likes to put it, they're not running against each other, but they are. So there you have it. That being said, I thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of Candid Conversations, however you want to say it. We will have several more of these. I've already interviewed quite a few people, so they will be dropping periodically. Next week, we'll be hearing from a candidate, Representative Lauren Daniel. We'll be hearing from her. She's in Georgia. And then followed by that, I'm bringing in someone out of state. I'm bringing in a candidate from Indiana. There's a Republican who's running against another Republican in their primary in Indiana. So he'll be coming up too. But we're so excited that you are joined us for this conversation, this candidate conversation. And that you've joined me on this journey as we delve into the insights and some of the aspirations, the political aspirations and the leadership style of our guests. I'm really excited about this. I think it's absolutely necessary that we really focus in on making sure we are electing people who have our best interests at heart, I should say. So as we conclude, please remember the full episode and more of these engaging conversations are available on YouTube, as well as they will be dropping on the podcast so the Podcast Park or wherever you get your podcast. Tune in here to hear from a diverse range of candidates. As I mentioned, we have Georgia representatives and we have someone coming in from Indiana. they're all elected officials, and as well as there are those who are making waves and creating change as we navigate through this whole little crazy political landscape that we have going on here. And as we explore the visions that are driving our communities forward, because these are the individuals that will be driving us forward. It's extremely important to keep that in mind. So again, I really want to continue having more of these. I want to know who you want to hear from. So shoot me a message. Go to the website, allthingsjking.com, and shoot me a message and let me know who you would like me to reach out to as it relates to candidates or elected officials. And remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification button if you are listening on Facebook, or I'm sorry, if you're listening on YouTube, not Facebook. There are so many platforms. Oh my God. I'm feeling like they, can I just take a quick moment to have let me just take a quick moment. I am noticing that technology is running rampant. While I'm grateful for it, I'm grateful for a lot of the new developments, and I know that industry and development is something that we're supposed to do, and maybe I'll make this a podcast, but anyway, I am really, really paying attention to how we're innovating and at the speed at which we're innovating, which is also quite interesting to me. But anyway, moving on from that. Yes, follow me on social media platforms as well. But I really, really want you to check out the YouTube page, because I think it's something about being able to sit and watch the candidates speak. I think there's something about that. So let's make sure you do that. And if you want more of just the Candidate Conversations, which is a series that the Janelle King Show is bringing to you, please make sure that you check out the playlist that is on that platform. And you can also hit the notification button at that time. And then that way you will be notified whenever we are getting ready to drop a new episode. As always, we certainly appreciate all of your support, and we look forward to having you join us again as we have more candid conversations and dive into more valuable insights and just continue the conversation, because it's up to us. It's just that simple. It's up to us. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, make sure you stay informed, stay engaged, stay inspired, and I will catch you next week.
Spring is here and baseball is back.
You can't forget the Derby. I love the hats. Do you have yours yet?
My hat? I treated myself to a whole outfit.
If you want to be able to treat yourself, then you should check out the Nest Savings Account at LGE Community Credit Union, where they want you to reach your savings goals faster.
Take it from a pair of 680 The Fan wives. Head to lgeccu.org to find out what makes their team #1 in Georgia.
The Fan is ready for Brave season. Are you?
3-1 smoked high in the air, deep center field, and heading for the horizon. A home run by Olsen.
We're streaming every game of the Braves 2024 season free on the 680 The Fan app.
So make sure you download it now and don't miss a pitch of the Braves this season.